like to unmute yourself, you can give any additional information to the commission. Commission, it is up on the agenda for discussion and or decision.
Can you hear me now?
Unmute yourself, you can give any additional information to the commission. Commission, it is up on the agenda for discussion and or
Alexis, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. Just due to the timing of the season, I'm hoping that we can resolve or get consensus on the actions, because I like to implement these actions in the fall and the time frame is getting short. I was reviewing the minutes from the last meeting and the violations, and I just wanted to get some questions to make sure that I'm clear on what I can and cannot do. There were three main violations that were brought up originally. The first one was the missing vegetation in the wooded area. I agree with the fact that the area was cleared. As I said previously, it was not the intent to remove vegetation. The intent was to improve the wetlands and clear the area for vegetation. Last year we did the clearing of the woods. This past summer we added a dozen native wetland shrubs at the front of the wooded area, which had been planted. So if I understand correctly, the corrective action is to plant a mix in the wooded area to basically restore the vegetation. And after speaking with New England Plant Company and explaining the area that was back there, they recommended what they call a conservation wildlife mix, which would be the best component for that area. I sent you the details, and I believe you said that was acceptable, as opposed to a wet mix, which they would think would be as good in that area as the conservation wildlife mix. So it's my proposal to see that with the wildlife mix in the areas that we talked about in the application, areas identified in Figure D of the permit.
So just in the areas on in your previously submitted figure?
Right, the areas we highlighted was Figure D, were the areas where we had the open paths where work had been done. And it's pretty much, it's Figure D. It was areas 1, 2, and 3, which is to the far left between the stone walls, and then the two pathways on either side of the center of the property, which were kind of vacant right now of growth. So I'm just trying to get concurrence if that's acceptable.
So you had previously proposed the wet mix. New England Wetland Plants makes a variety of native seed mixes, some that are for very wetlands, some for wet meadows, some for uplands. And so what Mr. DeSimone is saying is they'd like to change the proposed seed mix from one native seed mix to another, based on his discussion with the folks at New England Wetland Plants. And then as far as the places to be seeded, I think there was a discussion at the last meeting that a wetland seed mix, in addition to maybe some other woody plants or ferns, would be also in the area that you marked as a depression in the hole.
We can't plant ferns there. There's nothing there right now. So I'm not quite sure where I need to plant something. Nothing was removed from there in terms of shrubbery. If I need to plant some ferns in the depressed area, I will. But there was none there to begin with. So I'm not quite sure why I need to put them in there. If I'm doing the wetland, I'm going to put the wetland mix in the same area, in that depressed area. And the wetland mix is what the reason I picked this one is it says it's a combination of grasses, wildflowers, and legumes for good erosion control and wildlife habitat value. It's a no maintenance seeding. So is that sufficient, or do I need to add stuff that really wasn't there to begin with before we did any cleaning of the area?
I think that's up to the commission.
Yeah, so I'm okay with just the native seed is fine for me. What do the other commissioners prefer?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I'm okay as well.
That's
Whatever
fine.
you guys think.
So that's acceptable? Can I move on to the next topic, which was the depression? I believe that the only thing I wasn't clear on, the depression right now that was excavated, and I showed a picture at the last meeting, is basically very uneven. It's jagged. There's a lot of exposed rocks and roots in there right now that were dug up. Well, not dug up, but just excavated. And I'm just concerned that right now it's a danger to any wildlife or people that may be back there. So I'd recommended just simply filling it back up to the level it was before and then putting in New England mix. One of the recommendations was simply fill it mix, but I'm just concerned with the shape of the depression that's there now. I'd like to just simply make it a smoother, safer depression and then seed over it, if that's acceptable. And I'm only talking about 6 to 10 inches of fill to bring it back to the level it was at previously.
Are we concerned about that having an effect on the function of that area in general, Alexis? Filling it with
No,
different dirt?
It was more kind of the nature of the violation has to do with what I kind of describe as a over manicured ness of the wetland, and that but that's fine. So I think that the original concern was that there already is kind of a depression, a slightly a bit of a depression in the middle of the wetland, and the concern was just continuing to do additional work and making sure that the hole, which was certainly excavated by hand to make deeper, that it is only returned to its original grade.
Okay, so we want to return to its original grade, and that doesn't seem like a big lift to me. To anybody else?
No, as long as there's no mounding and it's just, level with its original, that's fine.
As long as there's no fill brought in, if it's just an evening out, but I don't think any fill should be brought into this area.
Yeah, we're just going to use the fill that was basically excavated that's in the area. And as I said, I'm not trying to make it bigger than it is. I'm just trying to bring it back to the depression that was there before, because right now I'm just afraid that someone steps in that hole, they're going to get hurt, or an animal goes in that hole, they're going to get hurt because there's exposed roots and rocks in that area right now. So is that okay to fill it and then add the mix for vegetation?
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah, just in the hole, not
The
all
hole.
exposed roots everywhere.
Correct. No, just the hole that was dug up, that 10-foot wide depression. Okay, moving on, the last of the violations had to do with the gravel path that was put down. As I said before, the area that was covered was a dirt path before. It was an opening in the wetlands that gave me access to the non-wetlands areas in the corners of my property. I simply covered it with gravel. I had requested permission to leave the gravel path if possible, because as far as the overall percentage of the wetlands, it's only 1%. There's about 1,600 square feet of wetlands based on the wetlands survey map that was done. And this area is about 180 feet of that. I do plan to add vegetation on either side of the path and behind the path, but I was trying to avoid the work of removing the gravel that's there if possible, because there was nothing there to begin with other than a dirt path below it. Is that acceptable to leave it, or do I need to remove it?
Let's get this area back to get it to as close as how it was originally, I think. So I didn't say that very clearly, but I think I want the gravel gone.
I think that's consistent with what we said at the last meeting, that we were okay with the path that was to the, I want to say the far west of the property as a footpath, but we were not comfortable with the gravel path that goes in the middle.
Okay, but if I remove the path, could I at least retain the path that was there before for access to the back, which is non-wetlands? I can take the gravel out, but can I keep the 3 or 4 foot opening that was there originally? Which would just be dirt below it. That's what it was. It was dirt with no vegetation. And I'll plant on either side of the path and behind it. And I'll remove the gravel.
Alexis, do you think that's acceptable? I just envisioned the gravel path as it is now. So I'm not sure if he leaves it as a dirt path. Uh-oh.
Right.
Oh.
I'm just,
I had a photo that I showed at the last meeting that showed from several years ago where there was an opening in the middle of the woods in that area where the path is. So if I remove the gravel path, I'm just trying to get back to what it was before, which was an opening to the back of the area, which is not wetlands on either side.
so it's this. So not, you're talking about the gravel path that goes to the depression,
Yeah.
not the path
that-
going to the back.
Correct. That was an opening before that existed, but it was just dirt before. There was no vegetation there. So if I remove the gravel, it's going to be dirt again below it. I just like to retain that small 3 foot opening, and I'll just take the gravel. I'll have the landscaper remove the gravel from the premises. I've already spoke to him about that, if I need to do that.
I guess I'm just wondering what happens after that. Are we gonna get like a bunch of random invasive junk growing in there, or like what really happens with that path then, long term?
It's just dirt. There's nothing there. There was nothing there before. It was just in that path. If I share, I can show you a picture of what it used to look like if we need to do that.
I don't know. I guess I don't feel strongly about this one, guys. If we can meet in the middle on this, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with taking the gravel out and leaving the existing pathway there.
I'm happy to hear the gravel's path is being taken out, so we'd like to meet in the middle as well.
Okay, so I'll remove the gravel from the path, and I'll see it on either side of the path as well as behind it.
I think that sounds like a good plan.
Okay. I believe that's it for the corrective actions on the violations. The other 2 items had to do with the additional work that I was requesting. I believe at the last meeting, there was no issues with the stone patio that I was proposing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the only area was the sprinkler system, and I wanted to have a little discussion on that because I don't necessarily agree with the recommendations of the commission. I did make several phone calls. Basically, I spoke with the landscape architect, Barbara Wilson, explained the situation back there, told her that we had planted a row of wetland shrubs at the edge of the wooded area, and also that we were going to be putting some grass seed mix down there in the damaged lawn to restore the area that was damaged by flooding 2 years ago. And she agreed that in order to, and I'm using her words, in order to stabilize the plantings in the lawn, I should have a watering system in the area so the new plantings and lawn thrive and remediate the damaged areas of my property. And actually, since I've planted them due to lack of rainfall and irrigation, I've already had 2 shrubs die and several already wilting because I just can't keep them adequately irrigated. And of course, now with the water resources limited, it's becoming even a bigger problem. I also contacted my irrigation company just to understand what the impact of installing the sprinkler system was. So right now, we measured it out, about 60 to 70 feet of the lawn and the shrubbery extends below the wetland markers into the wetlands area. The farthest that the sprinklers can spray is 20 to 30 feet max. So by just limiting myself to the flags, I can't even irrigate half of that area that's below the markers. And I did check with them to see what exactly the installation process was. And it does not seem to impact the lawn or the wetlands. What they do is they simply cut a small 1-inch slit in the lawn, put the piping in, and then close the slit up. They don't dig anything, they don't trench anything, and no material is removed. They just slice it, put the piping in, and then they put the flap, cover the grass back over again, and nothing is taken out. I also went to the municipal code for the city of Norwalk to understand exactly what is permitted in wetlands. And under section 60A-4, permitted operations and uses, and I'm quoting now, it says the following operations and uses shall be permitted in inland wetlands and watercourses. Section 5 said uses incidental to the enjoyment and maintenance of residential property, such property defined as equal to or smaller than 1 acre and containing a residence. And it says it's acceptable so long as it does not include removal or disposition or deposition of substantial amounts of materials from or into a wetland. So basically, the sprinkler system does not disturb the wetlands at all. It doesn't remove any material from the wetlands, and it provides me the irrigation I need to maintain my lawn and to maintain the wetland shrubbery that I planted in the back to actually improve the wetlands. So I'm asking for permission to put the sprinklers in beyond the flags, at least within 20 feet from the wooded area, so that they can at least irrigate the plantings. I don't have to go all the way to the back of the area, but I need to get within at least 20 feet so that I can irrigate the lawn and the native wetland shrubs that I placed back there.
Okay, so commissioners, if I recall, at the last meeting, that there was a lot of discussion about this, and it was, I think, kind of a mixed group. I personally did not have a problem with the irrigation going into that wetland. If I recall, it's maintained as lawn. Is that correct, Alexis?
Correct. So a portion of the, just to interrupt 1 second, Michelle, in the attendees, there's a John Mailing. If you could promote him to a full panelist. Thank you. Hold on 1 second. Let me just. So yes, the wetland, you were asking Karen, the area, the wetland line relative to the lawn line,
Yeah.
more or less. So in this sketch, this line is a wetland marker here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this line is a wetland, the rear of the wetland.
Mm-hmm.
And then this line is the approximate location of the lawn. So
Okay.
this area here is existing lawn.
Okay.
And that's always been existing lawn. That wasn't converted recently. That's been there since we purchased the property in 1987.
Okay. Hey, is John Mailing in this group yet?
He's working on it.
Okay. All right. How do the other commissioners feel about putting the irrigation system at, I would say, midway into the wetland line, but existing lawn?
That's fine with me.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay as well.
Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with it, but I'm not gonna say it's the worst thing in the world. Go for it.
Yeah, I
Can I-
think.
Can I be heard?
Oh,
Yes.
hey, let
Hi,
me
John.
just make an announcement. John Mailing has arrived at 6, let's just say 6:20.
I was unable to get on at 6 o'clock for some reason, but now if I am on, I can address the irrigation system. My recollection is that we wanted to explore to see whether or not there was a less intrusive way to do the irrigation. It turns out that there isn't. So I have no further objection to Mr. DeStefanos' proposal. Did anybody hear that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all heard you.
Okay, terrific.
So Alexis, that's the end of what I have to say. So if I understand correctly, we've agreed with the vegetation, the depression, the gravel path, the sprinkler and the patio. As I said, I'm a little bit of a sense of urgency to get started because, you know, for especially the plantings in the wetlands, I'm going to lose my peak planting season pretty soon. I did check with the New England Wetland Company. I can usually get the mix within a matter of days. So what is the next step for me in order to start to make the corrective actions?
So the agency would have to make a formal decision. So they can do that at any time. Often they do that once they have some direction, they articulate that to myself and I put together a draft resolution to approve with whatever conditions they're suggesting.
So that doesn't require another meeting per se then?
Well, we would, it's unlikely that we would make a decision tonight because usually we like to get, as Alexis said, a memo from her which lays out, you know, if any bonds are required, any kind of conditions that might be required. So I would say that at the next meeting, which is October something.
13th, I believe.
Yeah, we would render a decision.
Would you expect it to be any different than tonight? Because it sounds like everyone agreed with the actions that I recommended, and they're all included in the permit that was submitted back in July.
I don't anticipate that there would be any changes to what you're hearing tonight. Everyone seems to be in consensus.
So no decision tonight, but there seems to be consensus with the scope of the corrective action activities in your application.
So you mentioned when I spoke to you on the side meeting we had, that at some point I would come down and we do whatever the paper is to approve the permit. Does that have to wait till the next meeting? Because now I'm running into the end of October and I may not be able to get my plantings in.
Right, that would need to wait to the next meeting is what I'm hearing.
I'm just concerned with the time involved. I really like to get this done in the fall and not defer to the spring. I mean, I know you can't formally approve it. I didn't hear any necessary objections tonight. Can I?
Yeah, they don't really have an informal, we had talked about this before, there's no kind of informal decision. They'll make a final decision or they won't make a decision.
Well,
They don't really,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so there's not kind of they haven't yet made an approval.
Okay, I maybe I misunderstood because when we had the last meeting and had the discussion, I thought that tonight's meeting was potentially could potentially be approval if there was consensus among the commission.
Right, as Ms. DeStefano said, they certainly, it is their option to make a decision. Often they don't make a decision until they have a draft resolution from staff. And it sounds like they are looking to have that before they make a decision. But you can call me tomorrow to discuss further.
I'm just trying to see if they're any expedite because I would like to try and get the material ordered and the landscaper lined up. I'm just worried that he's going to get very busy soon. And as I said, we're now talking about the middle of October to render a decision. And then I may be running out of time in the fall.
Understood.
So basically then I'll have to attend the next meeting on the, whatever it is, to get formal approval.
I would say yes. You can always go at risk and get everything lined up for October 14th or 15th. But at this point tonight, I don't think we're in a position to render the decision without having, you know, a resolution in front of us, unless someone else in the commission has a different opinion.
I would prefer to work from a resolution.
Okay,
So when is the next, I'm sorry, when is the next scheduled meeting?
October 13th, I think Alexis said.
For 13th, I believe. I'll check my calendar.
So Alexis, do you need anything from me for that resolution?
Commission, do you want any revised plan, or do you just,
I think if you outline what Mr. DeSimone said during this meeting in the resolution
okay,
and what we've all agreed on, I think that should be sufficient.
okay.
And he doesn't actually have to attend the meeting, right? We can just vote on it and, you know, go from
Right.
there.
Right, you can call in on Wednesday morning, Mr. DeSimone, and just ask Alexis what the outcome was.
Following the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would like to, at least, the material is not extensive, so I mean, I could proceed at risk and just order the material and have the landscaper lined up for the third week in October, hoping that, you know, we get resolution at the next meeting, at least get on his calendar to be scheduled.
Sure,
Sounds good.
that's up to you, but that sounds good.
Okay, so Alexis, you'll be in the office tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just follow up with you, see if anything else you need from me then.
Okay, we don't need anything, I think.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
All right, bye.
Okay, now we're going to move on to S20 553 12 Holiday Drive, Lawton. Corrective action, restoration of a wetland, watercourse, and upland review area.
Okay, this is also a corrective action application. You saw it for the first time at your previous meeting. I had sent you an email previously alerting you to some revised plans that were posted on the website. Now, pull those up real quickly. Here. So this is, Mr. Lawton submitted a plan that shows a better depiction of the existing conditions. Which again, the numbered lines are the wetland area. There is the lawn area is the hatched green line. So most of the wetland area has been maintained as lawn historically. Beyond the green hatched area in the rear of the property has been a wooded area. Portion of that wooded area is wetland, and then the other portion is upland review area. And then additionally, submitted as a proposed revised plan. And mostly based on your discussion at the last meeting. And I guess the applicant is in attendance, so I can give you the floor.
Thank you. So yeah, I met with Alexis and just talked about different options, and she showed me some other plans for people who are in a similar situation. So it definitely helped to see that. So if you look at the revised plan, one of the first things I just want to point your attention to is we used to have a path near number 3 going to the fire pit. So I'm proposing to remove that, so it's no longer going through the wetland, and it would be, the path would start in the back behind the wetland area. You can see Otto Thiel's numbered wetland line right there. So it would be over a foot beyond that wetland line. I've also, if you look, I'm proposing to remove the mulch that is inside that wetland line. Currently there is mulch in that area, not all, but most of that area. I'll remove that mulch, and then I'm proposing, you can see the orange and blue and yellow. That's where I'm going to plant some more native plants. And then the area that's completely shaded blue, proposing to put wetland seed mix. I am asking for a narrow 2-foot path. You can see it connects to the path around 108 and then out to where there's that X. That X is where my children's zip line ends. So in order for them to access that without walking through brush and potentially getting ticks or Lyme disease, I'm proposing to put in a 2-foot path there. Now, currently that path is there, it's mulched, but you can see I've dramatically reduced the amount of mulch that is in that back area.
I have a quick question, Mr. Lawton.
Yeah.
What is the easement line that runs through there? What is that?
Okay, so we're gonna redo our driveway. We're getting water in our driveway. We've been getting, or excuse me, in our garage for the last few months. So we are planning on redoing our driveway. And one of the things that I talked to Alexis about, and this is one of the things that the paver mentioned, was connecting to the city easement, which is that X, and it's highlighted orange. So one of the options he gave me was to have a drain in the corner of my driveway where it would be pitched to, and then there would be a underground drain that would connect, like PVC piping that would connect to that city easement. The other option he gave me was to put a dry well right near where that tree is. So those are the two options that I have. So I wanted to bring that to you guys tonight as well.
So the easement is a storm drain, a city storm drain?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so your 1-foot path that's going from 108 to 101, that would just remain as mulch?
Yeah, that's just so my kids can access that area without, I don't want them walking through like any kind of vegetation to get there, because I just don't want to risk them getting ticks or anything like that. So it would be wetland vegetation on either side of it. If you look at the dashed line in blue, that's existing vegetation. And then the area shaded in blue, that's what I'm proposing to plant wetland seed mix on either side of it.
I see the end of the zip line. Why can't they walk through the existing lawn area versus a mulch path that is in the wetland area adjacent to the stream?
That's a good question. So the zip line is 10 feet off the ground, and there's a rope on the end of the zip line that they need to walk back to the start. So there would be no way for them to walk around on the grass and then back to the start. So they have to walk like underneath the cable line that runs from the highlighted X to the X on the other side of my property.
You're gonna have to forgive me for asking the question, but why do we have zip lines in wetlands? Why are we even considering that that's an acceptable use of this space? Don't take that the wrong way. I'm just like, we're trying to be really considerate and flexible and everything, but considering what's happening in other properties with similar situations, I feel like we're starting at the 80-yard line instead of like back at the other end of the field where we kind of would like things to be. That's probably a terrible metaphor, but I think maybe you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, nothing was like, we didn't take down any trees or any vegetation to create a path from one side of that to the other, you know? So I could understand that if like we removed a ton of vegetation to make that happen, but it was just an open clearing from one tree to the other tree on, again, you can see from the diagram, on either side of the property.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess I just feel like we're I don't know. I still feel like there's a lot happening back there unnecessarily.
But if you look at, so like where the highlighted X is, you know, that's technically outside of the wetlands. And
Yeah.
then if you look at 103, there's like a pink line there, which is like a ninja slack line, I think they call it. That's technically out of the wetlands. So
Yeah.
I'm not like, they're not necessarily, if you look at the diagram, I'm trying to limit the amount of recreation that they have in the actual wetland area.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I get that. I guess I'm just wondering, we're still having an impact on the wetland for reasons that are not, necessarily.
But if you, the previous, previous diagram, like this entire area, like underneath 103 is all mulch right now. So I'm proposing to remove all of that mulch and just keep a narrow path so that my kids aren't walking through like any kind of vegetation again, because I don't want them to pick up any kind of ticks.
Yeah.
And that would just be like on either side of that path would be, I'm going to plant wetland seed mix so that this way, we can restore some of what was there, but also at the same time, like keep a narrow path so that they're not walking through any kind of vegetation.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess
Is this line that's shown, is that the zip line that we're talking about?
So if you look at the yellow, there's like a yellow seat that they sit on, and there's a rope underneath it. So they walk that back to the starting point. And
Okay, so there's 2 zip lines, basically.
no, this is a rope swing right there.
This is the rope swing, but
Yep.
then this is the zip line with the line that you can't quite see it in that photo. And then this is the ninja slack line that was being discussed. And this tree is the wetland boundary. So it's wetland on this side of the tree and not wetland on that side of the tree.
Okay. Mr. Lawton, I think you understand that we are charged to attempt to reduce the amount of intrusion and disturbance in areas of wetlands. And that's what we're trying to work on here.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I'm trying to work with you guys as best as I can.
Can we keep as much as possible out of the wetland, period? Can we put the zip line, can it go somewhere else? Can it shoot to the opposite corner of the property instead of straight across the property? Can it shoot along that side property line?
I mean, you're welcome to come out, but there's really nowhere else to put it because there's not a straight shot from one to the other. So that's really why we put it there, because there's a clearing from, you need to have a tree that's a certain circumference so that it's safe.
Yeah.
And that's why we put it where we did.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alexis, is that wire that you see? Is that the zip line?
Yes.
Okay.
And so this is the point on the one side of the property, and then it's just out of view on the other side.
Okay. Can we
But
go
this
back?
is that swing in that other photo. Go back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, can we go back to the modified or the revised plan?
Yes.
Okay, so then I think I get it now. So, Mr. Lawton, from, let's just say the east side of or the right side of your revised plan, there's the X, which is where you end up, right?
Mhm.
And
So
then,
yep, sorry, go ahead.
so then you're saying that you want to make a path that cuts across, right across a small path that cuts into the wetland. Why can't your kids just go in the grass and go to the existing path at number 3?
Because if you look at the other photo, like in order for them to get the zip line back to the other side, like
You
they
have
have to walk.
you have to physically bring it back.
Yeah.
I get it.
I wish there was an easier way. I mean, right, if you look at this area now, it's all mulch. So I'm just proposing to keep a narrow 2-foot path so they can just walk that back to the start. And then I'll put wetland seed mix on either side of that within the whole wetland area.
I guess I'm looking at this like, had you come to this before you built anything, I don't know what of this we would have allowed.
Not much.
Okay, so like, if you do, I think if you absolutely must have use of that space back there behind, this imaginary wetland line, you're going to have to maybe come up, in my opinion, others can disagree, with a better way and more convincing way to access that space so that you really aren't having any impact in the wetland pretty much at all. That's
Would
where
you-
I'm at right now.
Would you agree that that would be a minimal impact? I mean, like walking.
What would be a
from-
minimal impact?
I mean, just like if you look at the X on the far right-hand side, like walking from there to like where 108 is. I mean,
Yeah.
that like the rest of that entire area, like which I'm proposing is like removing all the mulch that's there now,
Mhm.
putting native plants, wetland seed mix there. So like if you look at what's there right now, that's a major change of that area.
But what was it before it was mulched?
A lot of that back there was just pricker bushes and then brush.
Which is what it's supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's kind of like I broke a lot of laws. Can you let me off of a few? I mean, it's not that extreme, obviously. It's just dirt, it's just land, it's just plants, it's just water. I'm not trying to make this into a big deal. It's just, I kind of feel like we're not seeing the overall picture here, which is, you know, like Karen agreed, we wouldn't have allowed any of this pretty much had we been given the opportunity to give you guidance before you did all this investment, which, and again, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but if I were in your shoes, I would feel exactly the same way you do. So I'm just trying to we got to be fair with what we're tasked to do, and what the standards we hold you to need to be consistent with the standards we hold others to.
I get that, but wouldn't you say that's the same for most people that are in this situation, like with a corrective action?
What's the same?
Meaning like, and again, I didn't do this like trying to be sneaky or anything like that. I didn't know I had wetlands when I bought the property.
Right.
So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is like, I wasn't trying to be, you know, devious or anything like that when this was put in, but like what I'm asked, I feel like this is a pretty fair like compromise of what I'm proposing in comparison to what I had before. I mean, maybe I'm off, but
you're not off at all. And yeah, we're not saying like, oh, you're a terrible person for doing this.
Oh, no,
Again,
I'm not
fair
saying that.
Yeah, we just have to like.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is like when I listen to some of the other cases, like it seemed like there was more compromise, and like with this, it doesn't seem like there's much compromise at all. Where, you know, I'm trying to do the best that I can to restore that area inside the wetland, and I hope you see that.
Yeah.
But it just seems like from hearing some of the other cases that are on here as well, there's been a little bit more compromise there than what I'm hearing for this.
Well, with respect, Mr. Lawton, we're not charged to compromise or negotiate. We've got specific rules that we have to enforce. That's the job that we have. And I don't understand, for example, if the zip, and we have to satisfy ourselves that whatever it is that we come up with in concert with you or among ourselves, that it is the best possible thing. The fact that you've made improvement, I don't deny that for a second, okay? But we're still talking about it. That little thin line that I guess has now become a trail that's in the wetlands, that's a roadway with a little brown X. Did you say that that's the way back? That if you go from the little X above the 103 and you zip down, you then go over and you start walking along that little pathway or whatever it is and go all the way around to get back on the zip line? Is that how that works?
Yep. So you would get on where the X is that's highlighted yellow, and then it would go across past 103 and then end where the other X is. So like you could see in the other image that Alexis had up, there's a yellow seat that they sit on and then a rope that they hold on to walk it back along that cable to get back to the other side.
Okay, so the pink line, the vertical line that goes up and down is not the zip line. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's the slack line.
That's this thing.
Oh.
And that's outside of the wetland area.
Okay, so exactly where is the little trail going to be?
It would be right where Alexis, her cursor is right there.
Okay.
I think.
No, I'm sorry if I'm belaboring this, but can we go back again? The zip line the zip line runs from that big tree
Mhm.
to
Runs,
the yellow X.
right.
And it's not possible to get back and forth between those X's unless one uses this little pathway. You couldn't walk around.
You can't walk around because you still have to be able to be underneath that cable to like pull the swing.
Or to pull the thing back.
The seat, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have a problem with where the zip line ends, but I do, have a problem with the mulch path. So I think that, I don't know, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I would like to see a different solution. I understand that you have to walk it back. I understand that you only have a 10-foot line, but, maybe
Could
you
we
have a
just
20-foot line, like I'd like to see a different solution.
Well, could we have some kind of path there that maybe doesn't have mulch, like where they could just walk through that so they're not walking through like wetland vegetation? Because I'm planning on putting like wetland seed mix on either side of that.
Maybe wetland seed mix, but mowed twice a year, the width of a lawnmower, a small lawnmower.
But how practical is that? Because if you mow it, what you're saying, once a year,
I think Alexis, you said twice.
twice a year? So mow it in like May and August or something?
Yeah, probably July, September.
I think my concern is, well, I agree with Cheryl. And Steve and probably everybody, I'm not thrilled with wood path. I understand exactly your concerns about the ticks and everything. My concern is if you have this wood chip path, it's an intrusion into the wetland. If you take the wood chips out and you do a seed mix, is it really going to be the width of a lawnmower? Is it going to get bigger? Is the path going to deviate? Now it becomes not so structured. I don't know. I agree. I think that maybe you should give that some thought as to another solution other than that mulch path.
Okay, so I'll try to figure something else out for that. But in terms of the other stuff that's proposed, are you guys good with that?
I understand the need for the bridge and the access to the back. I would say that I do not like that part of the fire pit area is actually in the wetland, and also that the non-native plants are staying. I would like to see the plantings that are below and in the wetland area to be native plants. If you transplant the other plants to the upland, that would be a fine solution. But those are the other two areas that I'm seeing jump out at me. But I understand the need for the path up to the other areas in there. And I don't actually have an objection to that.
I agree with that assessment as well.
How about as another solution that part of the existing lawn becomes more vegetated, and he could still have his zip line? Because realistically, the kids are going to outgrow this in a few years. I mean, seriously.
Oh,
Yeah, oh yeah.
But in the meantime, at least the zip line will get the kids out there in the woods and appreciate what they have. So, I mean, granted, that's not a benefit we really consider, but I think maybe if some of this lawn turned into shrubs and wetland vegetation, it might be more of a plus than, belaboring, a footpath between two trees here.
So you're
I
saying.
mean, I know it looks big on the diagram, but it's really, I mean, Alexis has been to the property. It's really not a long run from that area.
So Ed, you're proposing reclaiming some of the lawn as wetland, like as a balancing?
We seem to have done that with other applications.
Mhm.
So, I don't see why we couldn't do that here.
I mean,
I think
I'm
that's
not,
actually a good solution, Ed.
I'm trying to work with you guys. I mean, I would not, personally would not want to do that. Just considering, again, my kids are outside all the time. I don't want to lose like lawn space that has been, part of the property for years. I mean, I'll look at other alternatives for the zip line, but I really don't want to lose like any of that lawn space.
Let me throw something at you if that's okay. Where I'm at right now, and I'm just one of a handful of voices, but I don't want anything in the wetland that extends beyond the lawn, like you said, as it's been for years, and that includes the bridge. I don't want that there. I don't want anything else in the wetland. And honestly, in the upland review area, I would prefer not to see any mulch. I think paths are fine, but I think the mulch is bordering on too much. So that's where I'm starting. Like, I don't even want to see the bridge. I think the bridge needs to go the path to over that. If there's enough water there to create it, to require a bridge, to me, it's like super invasive what that is. So that's where I'm starting at.
Okay. There's no like running water or anything. I mean, it's actually completely dry. It's just, there's a depression there. So it makes it easier for me to get over from, my lawn area to the other side where I access the compost pile.
Yeah, I'm just telling you where I'm at right now.
Okay. No, I appreciate it.
I think another thing that I would also like to see is a little more specific of a planting plan. So that when Alexis goes out to check, what's been planted, she knows how many plants are there and what size you're planting. Because those are important parts of the agreement, because, you can get a plant that's 2 inches, or you can get a plant that's, in a 1 gallon container or a 5 gallon container. So, there's a lot of variation. So I'd like to see a little more specificity in the planting plan as well.
Okay. I have, if you look down by Alexis's cursor, I have like the number of plants, but you want the size.
The size and the location.
Okay, so that's, if you look at the map here, that's like where I would plant, like the orange was the inkberry, like that's where I would plan to plant that. And then the yellow is a foam flower, and that's where I would plan to plant it, in that area right there.
Okay, and if you can add the sizes as well. And Alexis, is that sufficient for you for?
Yeah, I mean, typically with someone doesn't spec, with the conditional language would say that any shrubs need to be a minimum of 36 inches in height at the time of planting, and that herbaceous plants have to be a minimum 1 gallon container per plant. Is our standard requirement.
Okay. I can
And
do that.
I think also you have the blue circles, and you indicate that you're going to do 3 plants, but I only see 1 blue circle unless it's.
Yeah, no, you're correct. I was gonna
Okay.
put them in that general area there. I just thought if I put 3 dots, it might be kind of hard to figure out. I was gonna try to clump them together in that area.
Okay.
And actually, one more thing, from a technical standpoint, I don't I'm not comfortable considering the whole catch basin driveway drainage thing, mostly because it like goes off off of your property. And so I would assume that just based on how the lines are drawn on your property, that the neighbor probably has some sort of wetland thing happening over there too. And so like, I kind of would like to, if you don't mind, keep that separate from this.
Well, would you be more open to a dry well in the area right here, right off the driveway?
Just like in the upland review area, like around between 306 and the driveway?
Yeah, it would actually be, see where this line starts, like there's a tree there. It would be, I mean, it's technically 50 feet away from the wetland area. So if I did a dry well there, would that be more suitable for?
Yeah, at first glance, I don't think that it's a problem, but I mean, I'd want Alexis's input, but yeah, that seems, I don't know, it just seems like, we're kind of just going to be getting into more issues with the neighbor's property and all that stuff down the road, and I don't want to go there, but just a thought. But yeah, it seems like a dry well in the upland review area, like you said. I don't know that I'd have a problem with.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Mr. Lawton, I think you've gotten some feedback from us. I mean, I think this is a very nice improvement, but there's still a lot of concerns. So, and I think a lot of it has to do with the zip line.
Okay.
And I also agree, I don't really like the fire pit extending into the wetlands. It's more acceptable for me to have the plants that are native in the wetland, but your fire pit and your mulch, I think, needs to somehow come back.
I can move that a little further, so it's outside of the wetland, if that's what you would prefer.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Brown and I both have concerns about that.
Okay.
Thanks. Any other comments, commissioners?
Well, we seem to be going in the right direction here.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'll touch base with Alexis, and then I'll try to figure out a solution with the zip line. Is there any way you would consider leaving those plants in that area? I know you talked about, Ms. Brown, moving those plants out of there. Is there any way you would consider leaving those there and then planting native plants in that area alongside of it?
I would prefer just native plants in the wetland. I understand a lot of work went into that, and I fully appreciate that, but we would not allow anything that's not native to be planted in that area. If you had come to us with this as a proposal instead of an existing condition.
I would add that I would not be comfortable approving the things that we have been discussing without seeing them in far more specificity in a plan, in a professionally prepared plan that shows where the fire pit would end up, what types of plants are going to go where. I'm using my imagination a lot, but I'm getting very confused with the upland review, with the adjacency and the activity within the wetlands. And in order for me to find a middle ground here, I would prefer not to have to work from this chart as much effort as I'm sure you put into it.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, Alexis, we're going to move on to S20-554 Suncrest Road, Norwalk Housing Authority. construction of 69-unit residential complex with associated grading and landscaping adjacent to a wetland and a watercourse.
Okay, so you received this application at your previous meeting. At the previous meeting, that is a significant regulated activity. You went ahead and did schedule the public hearing, and that will be at your next meeting on October 13th. I know that you had some initial comments for the applicant, and earlier today, I emailed you a letter from the applicant, kind of just a quick narrative of some things that they're thinking about. Let me stop sharing my screen. I believe the applicant is here if you have any further questions in advance of the public hearing. Just again, a reminder, if you do have any comments or things that you want the applicant to address, sometimes easier for them to address in advance of the public hearing than once the public hearing begins. You also want to be sure to, if you are going to do a site inspection and walk the site, you want to do that prior to the close of any public hearing. That's all I have. If the applicant would like to speak, I don't know. I know you're not really scheduled to have a presentation per se, or if the commission would have any questions for Attorney Suchi.
Thank you, Alexis, and members of the commission. Thank you for having us on your agenda again tonight, recognizing that your public hearing will be 2 weeks from tonight. We did supply, as Alexis indicated, a quick letter today that indicated some of the concepts that are being floated based upon your comments from the last meeting, and reiterated some of the conceptual ideas that we believe are substantive in connection with the wetlands, the watercourse exists on the property. But if you have any other questions for us at this time, we're happy to answer them. I think Kate Throckmorton unfortunately had to leave the meeting since she had a conflict. But if there's anything else that you'd like us to bring back to our client to consider, certainly share that with staff, and we will take that under advisement, review, and get back to staff with whatever additional comments we may have with respect to your comments. But other than that, we don't have anything else to add tonight. I think the presentation was rather lengthy and thorough 2 weeks ago. We look forward to the hearing in 2 weeks.
So Liz, I just have a quick question again. I know that you had explained to Commissioner Mailing, but the Norwalk Housing Commission is not affiliated with the city of Norwalk?
That's correct. Norwalk Housing Authority is a separate entity, and the Norwalk Housing Authority owns this property separate and distinct from any ownership by the city of Norwalk.
Okay.
But your letter, Liz, said, I think the heading of the letter was Norwalk Housing Authority of the city of Norwalk.
That is the official name, but it is not a city of Norwalk entity. The Housing Authority is its own separate and distinct organization, entity, and structure. It is not aligned with the city of Norwalk.
Okay, that's what I understood from what you said before.
I thought we were going to get something on the impact that this project is going to have on the wetlands.
I think that we provided not only the plans, but the reports by ELS that detail the existing conditions of the wetlands, their function and their value, and the various component parts by virtue of stormwater management and improvements to the wetlands. I think we went through that last week, but just to reiterate, as part of the project, first of all, if all approvals are granted, the wetlands that exist today have been neglected over time, and they are going to be cleaned and improved with new native plantings, wetland plantings along the edge. There is a large rain garden that's about 4,000 square feet. That is substantial for this project. Infiltration chamber systems to handle stormwater runoff. There's more than 3/4 of an acre of permeable pavement on the site, and there is activity that's going to take place within the wetland area is going to be just the hand removal of invasive species and the cleanup of debris and other items that have accumulated in the wetlands. Some of the concepts that you were asking us to consider included signage on the path medallions or other similar signs that you have approved in the past to identify the wetlands and their functions, to provide an educational aspect. One of the things that was suggested is to have a better demarcation of the wetlands from the path so that there's awareness of where that line is. And it was decided that boulders or fencing or other forms of such demarcation are not appropriate, so we're not proposing them at this time. Wetland mitigation work is proposed along the wetland edge, and that is understanding that non-native invasive plants are throughout this wetland area. The project's intent is to remove and manage those non-native plantings, particularly within certain areas along the back end of the property near proposed buildings 9 and 8. If you would like, certainly at the public hearing, we will go through the types of wetlands and watercourse that exist, the functions and the values, and how the proposal before you will improve those wetlands in terms of how they function and the wildlife habitat that they will further create. Hopefully that's sufficient for now. I thought we went through that more thoroughly last time, but we'll certainly go through that again at the public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the cleanup is going to be good for the wetlands, but I'm still a little hung up on what the long-term impacts of establishing, this project is going to be on the wetlands. And is there any management plan? I mean, to me, the wetlands have looked a little neglected. How do we know 10 years from now they're going to be in better shape?
That is certainly the design before you, that the wetlands that have existed will be, first of all, improved, and then long-term management and care and attention will be paid to them. One of the component parts of this project is to have on-site staff, not only to manage the project and the tenants and the tenancies and the structures, but also to be aware of and to be cognizant of the fact that the wetlands need to be protected, and they need to be kept clear of debris and dumping and uses that are not appropriate. I believe we have a full wetland protection management plan with best management practices as part of the application documents that were submitted to you, either by Environmental Land Solutions or by Ty and Bond, who prepared the stormwater plan. But we can certainly detail that. We can certainly give you, if you'd like, an executive summary to make it a little easier and to read rather than the voluminous reports we provided, if that's helpful. But we did address those issues, and we did address the benefits and of this project. And frankly, we don't believe there are any negatives, largely because the work is outside the wetlands. It's not occurring within the wetland or the watercourse. They will be protected. There will be a variety of native wetland species planted, and attention is being given to protect them in a way that they have not been protected in the past.
So yeah, I guess I would encourage you to consider coming up with kind of a summary of the maintenance, and maybe just include the property ownership structure. You've been listening to tonight's meeting, and the commission sees a lot of wetland violations at single-family residences that butt up to wetlands, and so just kind of making sure that the commissioners understand the relationship that the units will have with the yards to the rear of the proposed units, and the relationship of those yards to the proposed path and the replantings, and then just some more information regarding how would the wetland area in particular be maintained.
Certainly, we'd be happy to provide that. We'll make sure that we provide, I guess it's best to call it an executive summary, maintenance, the relationship between the units and the yards, the paths and the plantings, and future maintenance. And also, we'll also add in there the summary of the role of the commission and its relationship to this project, and how it will view this project and what the statutory requirements are. Sure, I'm happy to do that.
That would be great. And then I think, like you said, in Ty and Bond's, the drainage management plan, there is a portion regarding the management of those components, and maybe that can just be added, key components added to that executive summary.
That's fine. We're happy to do that. Okay.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but Ed Holowinko and Steve Clockey left this portion of the meeting. So just wanted to put that on the record. Sorry, I apologize.
And one other question, do you guys happen to have like a one-page sheet of what the overall drawing is gonna be, what the plan looks like? I know we got a lot of the drawings and a lot of different architectural plans to kind of sort through, but is there like a simple sort of overview of like what it's gonna look like once the project's done?
I think that if you, in the drawings, this is page 30 out of 33. So you have to scroll a bit or flip through the packet that we gave you to the kind of the very end. This is the landscape plan.
Okay.
This might be your best bet. What are you? Just go through.
If it would be helpful, we could take L 1.01 and reduce that to probably 11 by 14 and have that for distribution. Because that, I think that does show the best analysis and comparison of what's proposed in relation to the wetlands, the watercourse, and yeah, this plan. We could have that reduced 11 by 14 or 8 by 10 and have that for the commissioners if that's helpful.
Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sorry to be redundant. If I have that in my packet, then I could probably use it, but if it's not too much trouble, that would help.
We can get that.
Thank you.
I think for the meeting 2 weeks ago, Kate Throckmorton was kind enough to provide it as a color rendering. And that might be helpful again for all of you just to see the different component parts without having to, like me, figure it out. The colors did make a world of difference. So I'll see if I can get that to staff and get copies for the commission. It might be very helpful.
Thank you.
Great.
Do you have anything else? We're happy to answer the questions. If we can't answer them tonight, we'll certainly get answers to staff. But just so that you know, the mailings went out to neighbors today to notify them of the public hearing in 2 weeks. And I believe my staff has forwarded to Alexis a copy of the certificate of mailing. So we look forward to being back before you in 2 weeks.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioners, any other questions?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Then we'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay. Alexis, moving on to S20-555, 16 Hilltop Road, Laurel Rock, temporary wetland and watercourse crossing for removal of trees and landscaping activities in and adjacent to a wetland and a watercourse. Oh, and Steve Clocky has returned.
Right, and I was just looking for Ed. I'll just let him know with an email. Okay, so so I think Ed might have left the meeting. I sent him an email letting him know that he can return to the meeting. But we still have a quorum, correct? 1, 2.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So this one, yes, you have a revised site plan based on your comments at the previous meeting. The applicant did make some revisions to their plan and included some sedimentation erosion controls, which obviously are a good idea on this steep slope. Included the proposed jute netting that would further stabilize the slope, and gave a planting schedule with the species and numbers proposed. So hopefully you all were able to view that. Again, it's a house on Hilltop, excuse me. It's a house on Hilltop. It's a through lot that also connects to Valley Road. All of the work will be from the Valley Road side, which is adjacent to the wetland, and provides the easiest access to the steep slope that's to the rear of the residence. They're proposing to remove some trees, prune some trees, and then establish a meadow area and replant portions of the disturbed area that are closest to the wetland and watercourse. To do all this work, they're proposing a temporary crossing of the wetland and watercourse. They're proposing timber matting across the wetland and watercourse to gain access to the area. So that's kind of my quick synopsis. I think the applicant's representative is here if you have any questions for them. At the last meeting, I think that the revised plan addresses all the comments that you had at your last meeting, but if not, chime in.
Yeah, I think so. Commissioners, does anybody have any comments or questions? No. Does anybody have any concerns with this updated plan?
Alexis, do you have any lingering concerns here?
I don't. I think with the proper sedimentation, erosion controls, and the measures that they're proposing, it'll. I think the potential impacts are certainly minimized.
I agree. I think it's a responsible effort to try to correct an unfortunate problem that they encountered, but they're a pretty intelligent and I think conservation-minded group.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the application S-20-555 16 Hilltop Road, Laurel Rock, based on with the 7 conditions outlined in Alexis Karaketti's draft memorandum dated September 22nd, 2020. Motion's been made by Karen DeStefanis. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Seconded by John Mailing. Any further discussion?
I just want to note that on the memorandum, the number is not the same as the permit number that was just read off. It says 552-555.
It should be 555. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, nice catch. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
It's like
Any-
5.
Any opposed? No, I think everybody's got their hands raised.
Okay.
Any
So 5,
abstentions?
but Ed left the meeting.
Correct. Okay, it's been
Okay.
approved. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. So would it be all right to go ahead and schedule the work for this area?
Yes, you can give me a call tomorrow, and we'll just review the conditions of approval.
Okay, excellent.
Good to schedule at least.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Oh, thank you both.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
You too. Okay, moving on to our last item, which is S-20-556, 21 Homer Street, Hurwitz, installation of an in-ground pool with associated grading adjacent to a wetland and a watercourse.
So this application was also received at your last meeting. They're proposing an in-ground pool, and they will have to do some associated grading, and it's the grading that really triggers the need for an intermediate permit. We didn't really have too many comments at the last meeting, so I have drafted a memorandum that includes a draft resolution to approve with some conditions. A lot of them are standard conditions, such as a bond for both the proposed planting and the sedimentation erosion control, putting up the sedimentation erosion control. It adds a note that in the event that there's one tree in the rear yard and it's noted on the ELS plan as with a note number 10 regarding its possible need to be removed. So special condition 3 would require that if it becomes unfeasible to retain that tree, that a new native to Connecticut shade tree would be planted in its place. And that once activity starts, all associated activity would be completed within 6 months of commencement. So that's a draft. You're not under any tight time frame to render a decision. You don't need to make a decision tonight, but if you want to, you can do so.
Please make a decision tonight.
Applicant.
Yes. Do any of the commissioners, I mean, at the last meeting, I don't recall there being a lot of concerns raised. Do anybody have any concerns that they want to air now?
Nope.
Would anybody like to consider making a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve wetland permit S 20-556 for 21 Homer Street for the installation of an in-ground pool and associated grading adjacent to a wetland and watercourse with the conditions that are laid out in the draft memo.
I'll
Okay.
second.
The motion's been made by Cheryl Brown, seconded by John Mailing. Any further discussion? I'd like to add that that memo was prepared by Alexis Carachetti, dated September 22nd, 2020, with 5 conditions. Any additional comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Alexis. What do I do? Just reach out tomorrow to move forward with the permits?
Yep, you can call me tomorrow.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Good luck.
Have a good night.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're gonna now move on to the minutes. Did anyone have any changes to the minutes?
I do.
Okay,
On page 2, about a third of the way down, its paragraph starts, Attorney Elizabeth Suchy representing the applicant introduced, et cetera. And in the minutes, it says its ownership, and I would interject at the end of that, its ownership by the Norwalk Housing Authority, a separate entity from the city of Norwalk. I think it's kind of important that we distinguish in our own records that we're dealing here with something other than the city of Norwalk. Not so much from the standpoint of wetlands, but from the standpoint of conservation, because the objectives of the housing authority are different from the objectives of the city. I'm not suggesting we put all of that in the minutes. I'm just saying that we distinguish between the housing authority and the city.
Okay.
any other changes? Okay, hearing none. Does anyone want to make a motion on this? I'll make a motion to approve the September 10th, 2020 minutes with the modification by Commissioner Mailing. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Cheryl Brown. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Okay. All right, next item is public comments. We don't have that on anyone here today. Comments of staff. What you got?
Well, a lot of violations, which I promise that by the next meeting, I will take the time to make a list of kind of the status of those, because it's just too many for me to remember and recount during a meeting without a list. So I'll make you a list. The other news is, and you may know this, the city administration offered a early retirement incentive to certain employees that have had a certain amount of service and are of a certain age. I am too young for that age, but but my assistant Brenda Hertanik, who has come to multiple meetings and has been with the department with planning and zoning and conservation for 12 years, is retiring. So I wanted to let you, let you know that she will be leaving.
Effective when?
What's that?
When is that effective?
October 9th. So
Oh my God, that's
as
like
of
next
October
week.
9th, yep. It's 44 or 45 city employees will be retiring.
Wow.
So a significant reduction in staff.
So are you going to get another employee in to work in your office?
I would hope so. I don't think that a city of this size should have an environmental office of one person. I don't think that we can be the city that we need to be.
No, I agree.
With that amount of staffing.
Maybe
But
hire two.
so that's an unknown.
Do you think there, Alexis, do you think there are people that can be promoted who are within the city now?
Yeah, I can't really talk. I can't. That'd be more of an offline discussion.
Right.
But yes, we have a plethora of excellent employees. However, you should also know that within planning and zoning and conservation, as part of planning and zoning, 2 other people also retired. Our zoning enforcement officer, Aline Rochefort, who had been here for 37, I think 6 years, losing track. And then also Dory Wilson, who's the senior planner for the city, who's also been here for in excess of 30 years. So we as a department are hoping that those positions get filled as well. So just wanted to let you know that that's what's going on.
Wow, thank you.
Well, give Brenda our best. I mean,
I will. I was trying to encourage her to do tonight's meeting, but she declined. So I will let her know that that you guys wish her the best in the next chapter. So, a real loss.
Yes, sad news.
That's really it for me.
Okay, comments of commissioners. Anybody have any comments? A reminder that we have the public hearing on October 13th. Steve, if you can make it for the first part of the meeting, that would be great.
Okay,
If you can,
think so.
Good.
great.
Let me look. Yep, I'm around. Is anybody going anywhere? We're all just at home.
You have no excuse.
I get thrown off again somehow. I don't know how that.
No, you're still here.
I am, but I'm looking at a Gmail on my screen. I don't. Anyway, I'll be there for the next meeting.
Excellent.
Okay.
No new applications again. So it's kind of feast or famine. So
Hey, I wanted to mention, so there's a house on Ponus that's between Hunters and Cornwall.
113 Ponus?
I don't
Did
know.
some clearing in the front?
Yeah, that would be the one.
Yep. I'd have to check. They were, Brenda was dealing with them. I think that I will look it up and give you a call tomorrow. I think that they had asked for a declaratory ruling, and then I'll have to check. If it's the one that I'm thinking about, we ended up just having them do a declaratory ruling for the work that they did.
Okay.
But I will double check.
Okay, yeah, it was just, driving by and going, oh, Maybe I should call Alexis on this. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
okay.
I think they've been dealt with, but I'd have to look up the details.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. I think we're good. Do I need a second, Alexis? I think we're done, right?
Oh, sure.
I never know how it goes with the ending. I don't think anybody would be opposed to leaving, so.
No. Sounds good. So we'll see you on the 13th.
Okay, have a great week, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All of you
See ya.
too. Take care.
Take care.